On 5 News tonight, the big banking shake-up, the murder inspired by religious hatred, and more medals for Team GB in Rio. New banking proposals are unveiled to help customers change accounts, avoid charges and save money. But do the plans go far enough? The killer caught on camera moments before murdering a shopkeeper he claimed had disrespected Islam. Diving delight, Tom Daley and Dan Goodfellow win bronze at the Olympics.
I mean, it was just insane. Like, me and Dan have only been together since October. We're a new partnership. We didn't even expect to qualify.
Also tonight, the world's most expensive footballer. But is Manchester United's new signing really worth £89 million? And why Jamie Oliver invited his children into the delivery room when his wife Jules gave birth. Hello and welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Sian Williams. Do more to save your customers money. That's what Britain's high street banks have been told as part of a shake-up of their industry. Among the measures they've been ordered to introduce are a cap on the fees they charge for unauthorised overdrafts. They'll also develop a new mobile phone app to make it easier to shop around and switch accounts elsewhere. But consumer groups say the report, 2 years in the making, doesn't go far enough. Andy Bell reports.
More than 3/4 of us bank with them, but not everyone is happy with them. For many, the big four have just too much of a hold on the market and so don't feel the need to look after their customers. Oliver Joseph struggled when he was repeatedly charged for unauthorised overdrafts, and he believes banks still use charges unfairly and hit those least able to cope.
At the end of the day, the banks are here to make money, and when you look at it in that sort of remit, we have to pay for the services, I agree that, but I don't think the way that they are charged to the customers are fair. The people who struggle with their overdrafts and the charges, the people living on the lower end of the market, actually end up paying a lot more than the people at the higher end of the market.
So today's report has some proposals to make the industry more user-friendly, including banks should cap monthly charges for an unauthorised overdraft and make sure the customers know what the charges are. Banks should send an alert, like a phone text, if a customer's going into an unauthorised overdraft. And customers will be able to put their banking details into an information-sharing app, which should show them where they can get the best deals. But are they relying too much on the customers being ready to switch?
Well, in the end, it's the customer who chooses who they bank with. It's the customer who chooses whether to go into overdraft or not.
But it's the regulator who could ensure that the banks were giving a better service in the first place.
And what we want to do is to make sure that the customers have the right information to make the right choices for them.
Increasingly, that information will be delivered by new technology, phone apps which make banking and switching easier and which can be set to move money automatically between customers' different accounts. And some believe that shift could open up the market to new players.
If an organisation such as, say, Google or Apple or Amazon decided that it wanted to be a big player in the financial services market, wanted to launch its own banking operation, people then might look at banking differently if they look at it through the lens of an organisation that's already established itself within the commercial environment as a success.
The report says customers could save £92 a year on average switching to a better deal. Will what's proposed today make more do it?
Andy, a lot of these plans rely on new technology. Is there any nervousness about that?
You're right, a lot of them do rely on new technology, and indeed technology is seen as the big kind of breakthrough which is going to enable us all to get better deals out of the banks. And there is nervousness about it. Take one of the main examples that the report held up today, which is this idea of creating a new banking app where data is shared. It's meant to be developed within the next couple of years. Now, you would sign up to this. You would have the choice as a customer to sign up or not. But the idea is once you've signed up, then it's not only your own bank, but other banks, other financial institutions could get access to your financial information. The idea being that's the way that you would be able to see what deals are out there, and they would be able to see whether they could give you a better deal than the one you're you're on at the moment. You can imagine how many people would be nervous about signing up for that kind of thing, putting that kind of information out there potentially for other people. And also, it is all very well talking about the internet and online and new apps as a means whereby we can get better deals out of our banks. There are a lot of people who don't feel comfortable with that, would rather deal with a human being. And the feeling is today that maybe this report hasn't gone far enough down that road, and there will always be people who might be shortchanged by their banks if they're not ready to sign up for things like online banking.
Andy, thank you. A man has been jailed for at least 27 years for the murder of a Glasgow shopkeeper who was described as a pillar of his local community. Tanveer Ahmed travelled from Yorkshire to confront Asad Shah, claiming he had disrespected Islam. He then pulled out a knife and stabbed him repeatedly. In court, Ahmed showed no remorse. Warren Nettleford reports.
The man making the point is Tanveer Ahmed. He's just driven 200 miles from Bradford to confront a shopkeeper in Glasgow about his interpretation of Islam. He's behind the counter. They had never met before, but moments later he brutally murdered that man, Asad Shah, stabbing him more than 30 times. Today, Tanveer Ahmed was sentenced to a minimum of 27 years in prison.
This was a barbaric, premeditated and wholly unjustified killing of a much-loved man who was a pillar of the local community. He is described as a peaceful and peace-loving man and a family man who went out of his way to show respect for those of any faith.
It was a murder that shocked and united Glasgow in grief. Asad Shah was a well-liked figure, known to take a genuine interest in the lives of the people he served.
We have to join together.
He also took an interest in his faith, often posting videos online. He was an Ahmadi, a minority sect not recognised by all Muslims. They believe there's a second prophet after Muhammad. It was this belief that so enraged the man who killed him. Mansour Shah is a senior member of that community. He knew Asad from when he was a young boy.
He was an extremely generous person, extremely kind, extremely lovely.
He hopes today's sentence will send a message there's no place for religious intolerance in Britain.
In this country, you know, there's no room for people who believe in this manner. Everybody has got a right, you know, to whatever they believe. It's a very personal matter, and nobody should have the audacity and the courage to go ahead and kill somebody just because of somebody's faith.
Asad Shah's family came to Britain after fleeing persecution in Pakistan. They're now in the process of leaving Scotland as they fear for their safety. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
An RAF helicopter has caught fire after making a precautionary landing on a mountain in Snowdonia. Pictures show black smoke arising from the aircraft. The Ministry of Defence says it was a training helicopter that developed a problem, and all 4 people on board got out safely before the fire broke out. A 22-year-old man has been arrested after climbing over a security fence at Buckingham Palace. The man was seen on CCTV cameras in the early hours of the morning. No members of the royal family were there at the time. It comes just 3 months after a convicted killer was caught wandering around the palace gardens. And Labour leadership challenger Owen Smith has been given the backing of former leader Ed Miliband. In a video message posted on YouTube, he said Mr Smith, not Jeremy Corbyn, was the best person to bring the party together.
I want a Labour leader who'll reach out to every part of Britain and can do what Labour has done in the past, which is out of this crisis, make it a progressive moment. That's why my choice for Labour leader is Owen Smith.
Slowly but surely, the medals keep coming in for Team GB. Ed Ling, a farmer from Somerset, picked up a bronze in the men's trap shooting. He'd missed out at the last 2 Olympics. And there was a bronze too for diving pair Tom Daley and Dan Goodfellow, who put in a spectacular leap before enduring a rather anxious wait to find out their result. Julian Drucker reports.
This is what pressure looks like. Daniel Goodfellow and Tom Daley about to dive backwards into a pool from 10 metres up. Daley says what came next was more agonising as they waited for their score. But just look as those expressions change.
Come on, Joe, just press those buttons, press those keys.
On winning bronze came a celebratory splash. And on Twitter, Daly hailed their success as a joint effort. They've been diving together for less than a year, but are now one of Britain's greatest double acts.
We're a new partnership, we didn't even expect to qualify, but then every event that we've been in this year, we've won a medal, and to come away with a bronze medal, we're just so happy.
For the children of the Tom Daly Diving Academy at the London Aquatic Centre, their idol continues to inspire.
It's definitely made me want to do what Tom Daly does, be able to do all that.
Because he started at such a young age, and I feel like if he could do it at such a young age, then I can do it at my age as well.
Ling. Back on land in South America, a West Country farmer. Ed Ling came third in the men's trap shooting.
And he does.
Down on the farm near Taunton, it provided nail-biting viewing for his extended family. Ed's father taught him how to shoot, and he's still his coach. His wife is also trigger happy.
To shoot off to get into the bronze medal match and then to win the bronze as well, I'd be over the moon. I was absolutely sick as a pig watching.
So the Russian slight split.
Lewis Smith won bronze 4 years ago, but for the gymnast who was a TV ballroom dancing champion the same year, this was strictly disappointing.
There we go.
That mistake contributed to his 4th place. The women's rugby 7 squad also missed out on bronze after defeat by Canada. And in the equestrian 3-day eventing, despite this confident performance, Team GB could only scrape 5th place. 24 hours of delight and dejection in Rio. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
Well, the host Brazil have won their first gold of the Olympics. It came thanks to a very emotional victory by judo star Rafaela Silva. The 24-year-old grew up in one of Rio's notorious slums and took up judo classes after repeatedly getting into fights with gangs. After her win, she ran to hug family members who'd been watching in the stands. And Jamaican world record holder Usain Bolt enlisted the help of samba dancers for his first public appearance in Rio. At a press conference, the sprinter showed off his own moves before telling journalists he's relaxed about defending his titles. Looks it, doesn't he? Here's how the medals table looks right now. Great Britain and Northern Ireland in 10th position. That's thanks to those 2 extra medals. And the USA, of course, still at the top, as you can see. Let's talk now to former Olympic athlete Sally Gunnell. Sally, of course, won gold in the 400 metres hurdles at the Barcelona Games. Should we start with Tom Daly and Dan Goodfellow? Because such a lot of pressure on these guys to get it right, and they got bronze.
Enormously. I mean, they've only been diving together since, October last year, so not long to build that sort of, that team-building effort that they need to put in. And I think what I liked about it is how they both stepped up. They were on their last dive and they were behind the Chinese who were, absolute perfectionists in it, and they were doing the same dive. And, the pressure that was on both of them, and I don't think people actually really understand, how you've got to get it right.
You know what that's like.
And there's so many little doubts that come into your mind. And I just think how they both stepped up and showed such maturity to be able to go out and finish on that dive they did. And they so deserved that bronze medal. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, and now we look ahead to the individual event as well. That's in 10 days' time. The canoeing. Now, that's been something to watch today.
Yeah, David Florence, he's qualified for the final. Just got through in the semi-final now, so he's through to that final, which is at 7:15, so not long. And he's somebody who's had 2 world gold medals in the World Championships. He's got 2 silver medals from the Olympics, but he's absolutely desperate for that gold medal, and he really is one of the most favourite going into it. So we really hope we can get a gold from there in a while.
Now, there was a tension on the equestrian. As we heard, they came 5th, but in a way, there's a bigger story, isn't there?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, there's a whole team, but of course, William Foxpitt has, he fell off his horse. He's been in a coma. He came out of a coma in October. Got back into riding only in April. And here he is in Rio. He was leading after the dressage and obviously into the cross country where they had a few problems. But to me, I just don't know how he managed to do that. And, you know, they did come fifth. I'm obviously a bit disappointed, but I just think what he showed to be able to get back on a horse and be in the Olympics.
Absolutely. To get back in the saddle when it was only 10 months ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
Astonishing, really.
Yeah.
Any other medal hopes you're looking out
Yeah,
for?
so in the swimming tonight, we've got in the 200 metres individually, we've got Siobhan Maria O'Connor, who ran the fastest, or who swam the fastest in the semi-final, beating one of the favourites. So big hopes onto her this evening. So we really hope that she can do well.
And any others?
There's loads going on. We've got the gymnastics, so we've got all the girls are out in the gymnastics tonight. We've had Andy Murray's just qualified, obviously, in the tennis, and yeah, so there's quite a lot. It's going to be a busy little evening, so it's still being able to save up. I know there's relays as well in the swim. We've got to stay up late again tonight.
Glued to the telly.
I know.
Thanks, Sally.
Lovely,
See you
thank
again.
you.
Nice to see you. Coming up on 5 News tonight, we find out what the fans think about Manchester United's £89 million signing and birth. Well, it's a family affair, so Jamie and Jules Oliver let their older children cut the umbilical cord of their baby. Would you? See you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News tonight. More dog bites are being recorded every year, but the hundreds of dogs put down are often not the ones at fault. That's according to the RSPCA. It says the Dangerous Dogs Act, which was introduced 25 years ago, doesn't protect the public and instead results in family pets being destroyed simply because of how they look. The charity wants the focus to switch to irresponsible owners. Catherine Jones reports.
Jack has been judged to look like a pit bull terrier.
Good boy, stay.
And was going to be destroyed under the Dangerous Dogs Act until Ali, who's a dog trainer, persuaded a court to put him in her care.
Come on then. I have children. I don't want dangerous dogs on the street any more than the next person. But we're not talking about dangerous dogs. We're talking about dogs that look a certain way. It doesn't do anything to make sure that the right person can have the right dog in the first place, and that's what we should be looking forward. High five. Good lad.
Although a judge can grant an exemption to save a dog's life, over the last 2 years, 366 dogs like Jack have been put down because they resembled a banned breed. 4 breeds have been outlawed since 1991, the Japanese Tosa, the Fila Brasileiro, the Dojo Argentino and the American Pit Bull Terrier, plus any crossbreed which looks like a pit bull. Since the law was introduced, there have been 9 fatal attacks by banned breeds and 21 deaths caused by other types of dogs, while hospital admissions for dog bites in England have risen from just over 4,000 in 2005 to more than 7,000 last year.
There is no specific research that suggests that these dogs are inherently aggressive or any more likely to use aggression towards people. And what we're really concerned about is that many of these dogs are family pets and they're having their welfare compromised because when they're suspected of being a prohibited type of dog, they're being taken away from their owners' homes and kept in kennelled environments, which can be really challenging for dogs.
The government says the prohibition of certain types of dog is crucial to help us deal with the heightened risk they pose, adding the law does allow individual dogs to be exempt if the court is satisfied they are not a danger to the public. The RSPCA wants a public inquiry to examine if the law is working and says the government's focus should be on making all dog owners responsible. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Joining me now is Shakira Free Miles, who's Veterinary Nurse of the Year and founder of the Save a Bulls campaign. Hello and welcome to the studio.
Hello,
Thanks for coming in. What is the Save a Bulls campaign? Why did you start it?
So it's a veterinary professional campaign against breed-specific legislation because it's us, the veterinary professionals, that are expected to euthanize these dogs based on what they look like.
So you've put dogs down based on leg length and chest width?
Yeah, it can be. Some of these dogs don't even get to that point. Some of these dogs don't even get measured. You know, certainly dogs that are in rescue centres will often be glanced at by an officer rather than actually be got out of a kennel and actually be properly assessed.
But are they brought in because they've attacked someone?
No. A lot of these dogs are actually stray dogs or sometimes even born in rescue centres, or you have the other part of it is the owned dogs as well that then end up falling victims of breed-specific legislation.
I mean, some people say yes, but people need protection from dogs which do take a liking to your leg, in my case this morning. So how does that happen? How would you do that without having an act?
The problem is the current Dangerous Dogs Act isn't an educational, doesn't have any educational value. So by seizing and euthanizing dogs or seizing dogs and giving them back to owners, you know, it doesn't actually protect the public. It doesn't educate anybody. Nobody is coming away from this educated. You know, we're spending £2.5 million just in the Metropolitan Police area on enforcing this law. If that law was taken away, and that £2.5 million was spent on education and preventing dog bites by ensuring people are educated on how to prevent themselves getting bitten, that would be far safer for the public. What we've got now is shameful. We're letting the public down.
Is it about preventing people being bitten and educating them, or is it about educating the owners to say these are the traits of this particular dog and this is how best to manage it?
I think it's both. I mean, you can't say that the characteristics of a pit bull, which is not a proper breed in itself, you know, you could have a Labrador crossed with a Staffordshire Bull Terrier that could make what look like...
So it's a generic term?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And these dogs are not inherently dangerous. There's lots of... That's completely flawed. There's no scientific evidence to state that. And these dogs, if they're looked after correctly, their welfare needs are met, there should be no reason why these dogs should be difficult to handle or deal with. It's ensuring that people are responsible and the people that are irresponsible should be targeted.
All right, Shakira, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now, with the Premier League season about to kick off, big clubs have been spending the big bucks. Manchester United have just forked out £89 million. That's the largest amount for any player ever for French international Paul Pogba. And as Peter Lane reports, that's rather a lot more than they sold him for a few years ago.
A football transfer with the look and feel of a movie trailer. 4 years after they sold Paul Pogba to Juventus for around £1 million, Manchester United have paid £89 million to re-sign him.
I'm back.
The slick in-house videos continued, featuring, of course, a private jet. There was no awkward question about Pogba once saying United had disrespected him. Instead, this on why he's come back.
I think it's destiny. I would say it's destiny. First, my mom told me I would come back here, and I told her, "We never know. We'll see." I didn't finish what I started here, so I think I came to finish it. I think.
So at Old Trafford, a club steeped in history has made history with the huge fee. Do fans think it's too much?
It's a lot of money, isn't it? But we're a big club. We can afford it.
It's too expensive for a player like Paul Pogba.
And they tell me it's just a game. Don't believe them.
Transfer fees have certainly transformed. Dennis Law was the first £100,000 player in the 60s. The following decade, Trevor Francis hit the £1 million mark. Alan Shearer set a record £15 million fee in the 90s. And prices rose all the way to Gareth Bale's £85 million 3 years ago, now topped by Paul Pogba's £89 million. Worth every penny to United in their current climate, according to this sports agent.
This is all about demand and supply, and the demand for great players is huge and the supply is very small. So this particular player was available to be bought, and I think that, you know, everyone look out because Manchester United are back.
I'm the one they all fear. I was the man of the year last year. Now I'm the man
Paul Pogba even appears in a music video with British rapper Stormzy to accompany this record-breaking deal. Football transfers never used to look like this, but then again, they never used to cost this much. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Yeah, they love when I drop that.
Now, it's only in the last generation that it's become more common for fathers to be in the delivery room when their partners give birth. Now it seems even more members of the family are getting involved. Jules and Jamie Oliver's 5th child was born on Sunday, and since then the couple have been sharing photos of their newborn, as well as sharing the more unusual facts about his birth. As he posted this photo, Jamie wrote, "So very proud of our 2 eldest daughters who cut the cord." And he also said they came in at the very end. It was amazing to witness. And that's his wife, Jules, there. That's the little newborn baby. So we're asking today, should you let your children watch you giving birth? Joining us now, Claire Baum-Cook, who's a midwife, and Nicola Wilson, who's a spokesperson for Doula UK and had her older children present at the birth of her youngest child. Thanks both for coming in. Nicola, what was that like?
Amazing, yeah, and wonderful for her. She subsequently had her own children, and it really stood her in good stead, I think.
So how old were they, and why did you decide that they were old enough to watch you give?
I gave them the choice. I asked them whether they wanted to be there. The oldest one definitely did, and the youngest one wasn't quite so sure. So we actually had somebody there who was able to look after her when she wasn't feeling that she wanted to be in the room.
And did at any point they just say this is a bit too much?
No, they were both fine.
Really?
Yes.
And did it make any difference to the way they bonded with the new
Yes,
baby?
very much so. My oldest daughter and my son, who was the one being born, obviously, have been very close subsequently.
Have they?
Yeah.
Claire, good idea then?
Well, I think for Nicola it was a good idea, and it seems to be a good idea for Jules and Jamie Oliver because they have a close-knit family, they've prepared for it, they've gone into it sensibly. Nicola had a home birth and the Olivers had their birth in a private hospital where presumably there were plenty of staff and plenty of room. What worries me is that if lots of people think, oh, this is a fantastic idea, and at the 11th hour they bring in children who are not prepared, labour can go wrong very, very suddenly. And so what is planned as a really happy experience can become a frightening one. And if you have a disaster, if things go wrong...
Not according to plan.
Yes, exactly.
Not according to the
birth
birth
plan. If things don't
plan.
go according to plan, what you don't want is the midwives tripping over children trying to sort of get there to help out. So I think when it goes well, it's fantastic. But to make it become the norm when we know there's a shortage of midwives and things can go wrong, I think that would be worrying.
You see, I've had 4 children, and I have to say that not all of them were births that I'd like other children to watch, my other children to watch. You know, it can be a very traumatic experience watching your mother in pain. So what would your advice be?
Well, I mean, you know, I'm obviously a doula, and I'm a spokesperson today for Doula UK. And at Doula UK, we actually really believe that birth is a family occasion, and that, you know, if children are well prepared, and if the situation is that you are at home, you always have 2 midwives with you at a home birth. In the hospital, it's slightly different. And I think that, you know, you have to plan very carefully with the hospital when you have your children there, because not all hospitals would be very keen.
OK, that's an interesting point, because if you've had a home birth and if the midwives say that you can continue to have a home birth, then it means that there are likely to be fewer complications.
Absolutely.
So more reason to
And
invite them in.
presumably, you know, Jules Oliver, it was her 5th child. She
Yes.
knew what her previous labours. So that's why I made some positive comments today, because I felt for them it worked really well. But I think it would be worrying if lots of people thought they could do it without the preparation.
Claire and Nicola, thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
That is it from us tonight. Sian Welby has the weather next. Danny Sinha will have updates throughout the evening for you. Thanks for watching today. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.